Our Earth, a blue oasis in the vastness of space, tells a tale of two realities. From the serene beauty of its blue oceans and lush green landscapes to the stark, barren deserts and polluted waters, our planet is a study in contrasts. This duality is a reflection of the challenges we face in preserving the delicate balance of our environment. From orbit, we see the beauty of swirling oceans, vast glaciers, and intricate river systems. These natural wonders are not just picturesque, they are vital components of Earth's life support system. The oceans regulate our climate, the glaciers store fresh water, and the rivers sustain countless ecosystems and human communities. However, a closer look reveals a planet grappling with a growing crisis, a crisis of water. Our rivers are drying up, lakes are shrinking, and water bodies are becoming increasingly polluted. This crisis is not just an environmental issue, it is a humanitarian one, affecting millions of lives around the globe. Across continents, the lifeblood of our planet is becoming increasingly scarce. International rivers that once flowed freely are now contested resources, and the global map of water scarcity is expanding at an alarming rate. This scarcity is driven by a combination of factors including climate change, overextraction, and pollution. From the parched landscapes of drought-stricken regions where the earth is cracked and barren, to the once fertile fields that now lie fallow under a scorching sun, the impact of water scarcity is visible and devastating. These regions are often the hardest hit, with agriculture suffering and communities struggling to survive. In bustling cities where millions lack access to clean water, the crisis takes on a different form. Urban areas are grappling with aging infrastructure, population growth, and pollution, all of which contribute to water shortages. People are forced to collect water from public taps, and in some cases even slums are left without adequate water supply. The signs are clear. We are facing a global water crisis. Empty reservoirs, dried up rivers, and the expanding map of water scarcity are all indicators of a problem that is growing more urgent by the day. This crisis is not confined to any one region. It is a global challenge that requires a coordinated response. The demand for this precious resource is skyrocketing, driven by population growth, industrialization, and agricultural needs. As more people and industries compete for limited water supplies, the pressure on our water resources intensifies. Efficient irrigation systems and sustainable water use practices are essential to managing this demand, while supply struggles to keep pace. Climate change is altering precipitation patterns, leading to more frequent and severe droughts in some areas and flooding in others. This variability makes it difficult to predict and manage water resources effectively, exacerbating the supply-demand imbalance. The consequences are already being felt around the world. Communities are facing water shortages, with some areas resorting to water rationing to cope with the limited supply. Drought-affected villages are struggling to maintain their livelihoods, and cities are implementing measures to reduce water consumption. This crisis is not just about scarcity, it's about equity, sustainability, and the fundamental right of every human being to access this essential resource. Water inequality is a pressing issue, with marginalized communities often bearing the brunt of water shortages. Sustainable water use practices are crucial to ensuring that everyone has access to clean water, and the fundamental right of every human being to access this essential resource. Water is a basic human right, and ensuring that everyone has access to clean, safe water is a moral imperative. Efforts to improve water access in rural communities and promote the idea of water as a human right are steps in the right direction. It's about understanding that water is not a commodity to be traded for profit, but a common good, vital for life itself. The privatization of water resources and the commodification of this essential resource are contentious issues that spark protests and debates around the world, but a common good, vital for life itself. Freshwater lakes, flowing rivers, and natural springs are sources of life and should be protected and preserved for future generations. By recognizing the intrinsic value of water and taking action to safeguard it, we can ensure a sustainable and equitable future for all. Water is the lifeblood of our planet, essential for all living organisms. We drink it, cook with it, and use it to grow our food. Without water, life as we know it would cease to exist. Beyond our basic needs, water plays a crucial role in countless industries. From manufacturing to energy production, water is an indispensable component of our global economy. Its importance cannot be overstated. Yet, despite its fundamental importance, we often take water for granted. We pollute our rivers and oceans, deplete our groundwater reserves, and fail to invest in sustainable water management practices. The consequences of our actions are becoming increasingly dire. Across the globe, millions of people face the daily struggle of living without access to clean, safe water. This daily reality is a stark reminder of the inequality that exists in our world. In many rural areas, families, including young children, walk miles each day to collect water from rivers, wells, and other natural sources. This water is often not safe for consumption, leading to a cycle of illness and hardship. This crisis manifests itself in various ways, each more alarming than the last. Dried-up riverbeds and empty reservoirs are becoming common sights, painting a grim picture of our planet's future. The parched landscapes are not just a visual representation of the crisis, but a testament to the severe impact of water scarcity on ecosystems and human life. Scarcity is perhaps the most visible aspect of the crisis. Cracked earth in dry regions and empty water wells are stark indicators of the dire situation. Dried-up lakes once teeming with life now stand as barren reminders of what once was. This scarcity affects not only drinking water but also agriculture, leading to food shortages and economic instability. Regions once abundant in water resources are drying up. Before and after images of lakes that have dried up show the rapid pace of this change. Aerial views of shrinking water bodies highlight the scale of the problem. Barren lands where water once flowed are now desolate, affecting local communities and wildlife that depended on these resources. Droughts are becoming more frequent and severe. Farmlands that once produced bountiful harvests are now desolate and dry. Dust storms in drought-stricken areas are becoming more common, further degrading the land and making it even harder for communities to recover. These conditions are exacerbated by climate change, which is altering weather patterns and making droughts more intense. Glaciers, our planet's natural reservoirs, are melting at an alarming rate. Time-lapse footage of glacier retreat shows the rapid loss of these critical water sources. Icebergs breaking off into the ocean are not just a sign of rising sea levels, but also a loss of fresh water that many regions depend on. This melting contributes to rising sea levels, which can lead to flooding in coastal areas, displacing communities and causing further water-related challenges. The lack of access to safe water and sanitation is another major concern. In many parts of the world, people are forced to use makeshift water filtration systems to try and make contaminated water safe to drink. Women and children often spend hours queuing for water at communal taps, which are frequently in poor condition. Rundown communal toilets pose additional health risks, particularly in densely populated areas. Millions of people, particularly in developing nations, are forced to rely on contaminated water sources. Murky water collected from ponds, children drinking from dirty streams, and people washing in polluted rivers are common scenes. These contaminated water sources are breeding grounds for bacteria and parasites, leading to widespread health issues. This leads to a host of waterborne diseases, posing a serious threat to public health. Hospital wards are filled with patients suffering from illnesses like cholera, dysentery, and typhoid. Children are particularly vulnerable, with many affected by preventable diseases. In rural settings, access to medical care is limited, making it even harder to treat these conditions effectively. The global water crisis is a multifaceted challenge with far-reaching consequences. Maps highlighting the severity of the crisis show that no region is entirely immune. International conferences on water issues bring together experts and leaders to discuss potential solutions. Diverse communities around the world are coming together to address their unique water problems, sharing knowledge and resources. It demands our immediate attention and concerted action. Activists are raising awareness about water rights, pushing for policy changes and greater investment in water infrastructure. Community efforts to build wells and improve water access are making a difference, but more support is needed. Global leaders are pledging support for water initiatives, recognizing that solving this crisis is essential for a sustainable future. The time to act is now, before the situation becomes irreversible. Section 4. The Rise of Blue Gold. In recent years, the world has been grappling with an escalating water scarcity crisis. Rivers that once flowed freely are now dried up, lands that were fertile have turned parched, and reservoirs that supplied water to millions are empty. This dire situation has led to a new phenomenon that is reshaping our relationship with water. As water scarcity intensifies, a disturbing trend has emerged: the commodification of this essential resource. Water, which is fundamental to life, is increasingly being packaged and sold like any other product. The sight of water bottles lining store shelves is becoming more common, and the infrastructure for water distribution is evolving to support this new market. Increasingly, water is being viewed not as a human right, but as a tradable commodity, a new form of blue gold. This shift in perception has led to the establishment of water trading markets where water rights are bought and sold. Protests have erupted as communities fight to retain access to their local water sources, and auctions are held where the highest bidder secures the right to extract and sell water. Large corporations like Nestle have entered the bottled water market, seeing an opportunity for profit. These companies extract vast quantities of water from local ecosystems, often depleting natural sources that communities rely on. The water is then bottled, branded, and sold at a premium, turning a basic necessity into a lucrative business. Extracting vast quantities of water from local ecosystems and selling it for profit has significant environmental and social impacts. Local water sources are being depleted at an alarming rate, leading to drying rivers and reduced water availability for nearby communities. The large-scale extraction disrupts the natural balance, affecting both human populations and wildlife. This practice raises serious concerns about corporate control over water resources and the potential for exploitation. Communities are increasingly opposing these extractions, with water rights activists leading the charge. They argue that water should remain a public resource, accessible to all, rather than being controlled by a few powerful entities. Adding to these concerns is the emergence of water futures trading. This new financial instrument allows investors to speculate on the future price of water, treating it like any other commodity. The introduction of water futures has sparked debates about the ethics of profiting from a resource that is essential for survival. Just like oil and gold, water is now being traded on financial markets, its price subject to speculation and market volatility. This comparison highlights the shift in how water is perceived and valued. While oil and gold are valuable resources, they are not essential for life in the same way that water is. The price of water is now subject to the whims of the market, leading to fluctuations and volatility. Financial graphs show the rising and falling prices, driven by speculation and market forces. This volatility can have serious consequences, particularly for those who are already struggling to access clean water. This raises the alarming possibility of water becoming increasingly unaffordable for those who need it most. In many parts of the world, people are already facing severe water shortages and high costs. As water becomes a commodity, the risk is that it will be priced out of reach for the poorest and most vulnerable communities, exacerbating existing inequalities and creating new challenges for global water security. Section 5. Conflict and tension over a precious resource. The increasing scarcity of water is not just an environmental issue, but a geopolitical one. As demand outstrips supply, tensions are rising between nations, states, and communities vying for control over dwindling water resources. Transboundary rivers which flow through multiple countries are becoming potential flashpoints. Disputes over water sharing, dam construction, and pollution can escalate into conflicts, threatening regional stability. The Nile River, shared by 11 countries, is a prime example of the complexities and potential for conflict over water. Even within national borders, water scarcity can exacerbate existing social and economic inequalities. Marginalized communities, often lacking the political power to secure their water rights, are disproportionately affected by water shortages and pollution.